Today's front-end developer portfolio review comes from Ian Scott. Now, Ian is based in Northampton in the UK, and he is a self-taught developer, although he has also attended a bootcamp in the past too. So we're going to look at Ian's portfolio today and see how potentially he can improve his portfolio, maybe even take some of the things that he's doing that are inspiring or that we could also adapt or adopt and put into our own portfolios too. So let's get to it. So I think the first thing that when we look at a portfolio, or the first question I always ask is, what will be the objective of your portfolio? This is critical because if you understand the objective, then you can build your portfolio from there, and it will then sort of guide the narrative in regards to the type of projects that you want to include, but also importantly, the way that your portfolio is presented. So when we first look at your portfolio here, Ian, we can see that you are using a sort of a graphic source, a graphic background. I'm just going to refresh it because the graphic seems to have rendered incorrectly there. Okay, and we have a very simple home page. If we understand the objective of the portfolio, then it makes it easier for us to then think about how we're going to present it, but also what we're going to include in regard to project material. Because this is critical. For example, if we're going for a front-end developer role where potentially we're going to be creating landing pages from high fidelity Figma files, then we need to obviously make sure that we incorporate those type of projects in our portfolio. If, however, we're much more interested in the sort of data, then of course our projects will or should reflect those too. And when I look at your portfolio, Ian, here, I'm seeing a very simple home page, and I'm seeing a graphic render as the background. Front and center is your image, which I like. I think that's important. I'm not drawn to anything in particular in terms of the way that your page is laid out. I think the hello world, I think we can remove this. I think what we need to do is have your name here, or even your skills, really make that the selling point. Because I've looked at your projects, and you certainly do have the skills, and this is the only time you're going to get to capture that person's attention, the viewer, as to whether or not they're interested. I've got to do a little bit of digging to actually see the types of skills that you have, and that's at the bottom of your homepage. We have to take the view that people that are looking at your portfolio, if they've got that far, if they've looked at your CV, etc., then they really are going to be rushed for time. They're not going to be interested in trying to sort of read what you've got. They just don't have the time to start filtering through and looking through wades and wades of portfolios. Your portfolio is a really good tool, by the way, to help extend and sell yourself further as apart from a CV. It's a tool that makes up the whole mix of your sort of job search itinerary. But I really believe that your skills have to be front and center. Well, I always think from a marketing point of view, I like the image. The image can stay, but I think we need to think about the branding too. So if we are to look, let's say for example, at your LinkedIn account, I think it's important that we start even now to think about bringing some branding across and bringing some branding from your LinkedIn to your portfolio and vice versa. Start actually having that association. So when it comes to your portfolio, yes, we have that sort of purple color that you're using. Good, it's slightly different, but it's a start. But I think that we need to find a color palette that suits you. It may be that you like this one, and if that's the case, start adopting it in your social media banners, etc. and photos. Let's have a look at the about page that you've got here. Okay, so we've got another background. Immediately with your background, although you've got text here, again, I'm sort of drawn to this background image, and I'm not really sure about what this is or what it's supposed to represent. Your portfolio is your product. You are selling yourself on this portfolio. It has to represent the best of you, well, as best as it can anyway. Let's have a look at the actual text. Again, with the text, I think for me, there's a lot of space on the screen. It's quite cramped. And clearly what you're saying here, you're telling me about the skills, which is great. But when we start looking at the other pages, I think there's another way of doing it. We'll go to projects last. I just want to go back to contact. Contact is fine, no problem. You don't have your email account there or a phone number, which is great. You've got the ability to actually just sort of send out a form, and you have links to your Stack Overflow, GitHub, LinkedIn, etc. Okay, so I don't have a problem with that at all, and I think that's fine. You've kept the color palette going. But again, going back to the about, I think we could do something here. So what can we do? Well, I'm not saying my portfolio is better in any which way, shape or form, but I've done a lot of portfolio reviews, and I've actually taken my design from, I think, somebody else. I've looked at somebody else's portfolio and thought, that's brilliant. Let's just have a look first. When you look at my portfolio, what I've done is I've just put my name, I'm a React developer in the UK, and my image. And straight away I've got a button that says view my work. But what you will see here is that this is a single page. And I think that having a single page makes sense for a portfolio in the most part, because if you think about it, if we go to your portfolio, with your About Me section, you don't have that much content. Sure, you can flesh it out, but really, you know, what we need is we need to either flesh it out and put more information there, whether it's credentials, certificates. You understand where I'm coming from here. But if we put it onto a single page, I think what happens then is that we have a flow, a user flow that's a lot easier to understand. And if you see here, I've got an anchor point where I click work, and it takes the user to the viewer to the work that I've created. So they can skip past the About section if they want. They don't have to read that, because I don't think many people would. What they're interested in is the projects, as you can see. And that's what we're going to view with yours. Let's have a look at the projects, okay? So I'm now going to the projects page. I think the other thing as well is that if you think about it, hiring managers, maybe they don't even want to click on navigation points. I mean, genuinely, they might be so fed up of viewing portfolios, viewing CVs, viewing PDF documents, that potentially they're just fed up of clicking on these things. But I do think that there is something to be said with having a single page portfolio. I'm not saying it's the best way, that's up to you, but I do find them more manageable and easier to navigate through and continue the story. With your projects, I think immediately the first thing that steps out again is we have that background with an opacity here in between each box that you've created. When it comes to your projects, I think with your projects, immediately the first thing that stands out is the thumbnail size. Now with the thumbnail size, I think we need to increase that, because if I'm looking at this on a tablet or if I'm looking at this on a bigger screen, I'm still not getting an idea of what it is that you're creating. For example, when you say P&L tunes, I do not know what that is. I then have to read the description, and then I'm reading the description and I get a general idea of what it is, but I don't really then get anything else. I don't get a button to the GitHub repository, and I don't get a button to the live. Well, I do. If I click on it, I can hazard a guess that I get taken to the project, and I also have a URL. But I do believe there's a number of things that you can do to improve this page. And the first one is to make the title understandable for the hiring manager or the recruiter. If it's a music streaming app, then put music streaming app. That will give a little bit more context than P&L tunes, because then I'm thinking, I don't know what that is. Obviously in the description you've got what it is, but they might not read the description. And I think your description also needs to include the technologies that you're using here. Really highlight those, because again, you know, P&L tunes could have been created on, for example, WordPress for all I know, and that's not really going to help. If we take a look at, again, I'm using my portfolio as an example only because I've reviewed loads and I've sort of taken the best bits out of lots. But I've taken the basic pieces that I think are important and I've learned that are important. And that is, I've got a bank clone, homepage only. I'm using React as the main technology. I've got a little description. I've got some more technologies listed. I've got a link to GitHub and the live project. And I do that with all my other projects as well. And I think that will help the person viewing your portfolio. I've looked through your projects and you clearly, there is absolutely no doubt, you clearly have the skills and abilities to become a very successful software developer. That's without doubt. But I believe that you need to sell yourself more. I think you need to give yourself more of a chance. I think you need to be proud of your work. Here you're sort of squashed in, and I really think you need to showcase, again, as I said before, the technologies that you use. The technologies that you use, increase the thumbnail size so that people can get a visualization of what it is. People like that. But also make sure that the headings absolutely provide me, as the hiring manager, for example, an understanding of what it is I'm going to be clicking on. Because if you're applying for a job that requires MySQL, for example, and you have a MySQL project, I want to see that now immediately. I don't want to have to dig through 6 projects. I'm just not going to do it. If it's there front and center, I will do it. And put your GitHub repo there as well, or a link to it. This is very important too. I think here what you have is the start, and a portfolio, by the way, is a work in progress. My portfolio, it took a long time to even get to this point, and there's still improvements I can make, lots. It's a work in progress, and I think as long as you can have that sort of evolutionary sort of journey with your portfolio, and you keep amending it and adding to it, then I think that you are on a winning path. Remember though, your portfolio represents you. It's about you, and you need to put your best foot forward. So think about the styling, think about the branding, think about your positioning in regards to how you want to be seen by recruiters and hirers. My final recommendation would be to consider doing a single landing page, with an infinite scroll, a bit similar to mine. Keep your portfolio on one page. That way you can just use anchor tags to link to those various areas, keep the user interested rather than having to navigate and move their mouse around, etc., etc. Keep that sort of flow going. I think that's important. Use the URL of your portfolio, put it in email signatures, put it in your social media profiles, showcase it in a featured section in LinkedIn, and really be proud of your work and talk about your projects more as well, which is key. I'm looking forward to see your revised or updated portfolio in the near future, and I wish you the best of luck in your job hunt, because I'm in the same boat as you are. It's not easy, it's difficult out there. So good luck with it, Ian, and thanks for sending in, really appreciate it. If you want your portfolio reviewed from this kind of perspective, by all means, please send it to me and I'll have a look at it. It's always good to have somebody external, someone you don't know, look at your portfolio and give you some pointers. Thanks again, take care, and I'll see you in the next one, I hope.